Alright, so Jade Shadows Constellations, we have a lot to talk about. I played the questline about, what, like 2-3 weeks ago, whenever it released, right? I played it essentially instantly, and I'm quite surprised. It's very good in some ways, but it's not so good in other ways, and it kind of raises more questions than answers for me. Like, it kind of opens up a whole new world of possibilities when it comes to Warframe, and I'm going to get into all of that. So I've got 3 questions that I want to get answered today, or at least talk about today, and kind of share my theories and stuff, right? So the first question is, what is the actual connection between Stalker and Excalibur Umbra? There's something strange going on there. Question number 2. What does the Indifference have to do with being able to create a space inside of the void, as you see at the end of the quest line? And then question number 3. What the hell is Sirius and Orion? They're not normal Warframes, I can tell you that for sure. So I'm gonna dive into all of these questions because of that crazy quest line, and before I get into all of that, I obviously need to let you guys know that there is gonna be spoilers in this video, possibly quite a lot. I'm gonna go into some of the things semi-deeply, so you have been warned, spoiler alert. And if you enjoy lore videos, breakdown videos, theory videos about games like Warframe, Crimson Desert and stuff like that, please be sure to hit that subscribe button and help me reach my goal of 20,000 subscribers by the end of the year, which I might or might not be able to pull off. We'll see exactly how the rest of the year turns out. Alright, let's get into it. Alright, so let's start with the Stalker and Excalibur Umbra. What is their connection? Now, somewhat in the beginning of this whole questline, the Stalker actually travels to Excalibur Umbra to ask him something very important, something very dear to him. And without exchanging essentially any words, Excalibur Umbra agrees to go with him. They go to the hideout where Hunhow is also at, might I add, and it gets revealed that Excalibur Umbra has a very, very important job. He has to take care of Stalker's baby. Now, at first glance, it doesn't seem too crazy. He has to babysit. You know, what about it? Well, it does raise a few questions. Why, for one, did the Stalker actually go to Excalibur Umbra to ask him for a favor? 2. How did they speak without speaking? And 3. What is their connection, right? So let's start with, the beginning. As you guys know, and if you don't know, you can watch the video that I'll pin at the top. I did a kind of a deep dive into it. But as you guys know, Excalibur Umbra was made like Excalibur Umbra, almost being able to speak, think, and act consciously because Balaz preserved a very painful memory inside of him. The memory of his son dying, right? Now, it isn't clear how Stalker was made, but we do know that he can act independently, think consciously, and also somewhat speak.
And now, they come for you from beyond this time.
Even though they have trouble speaking, they can speak. It is entirely possible, right? So they have a very similar nature, which begs the question, were they made similarly as well? Were they made both by Balaz? Quite possibly. There's a very high likelihood of that happening. The thing is, the Stalker was also kind of seen as, not a traitor, but as somebody who did something very wrong against the Arcan Empire, right? So he might have also received punishment, and as a form of punishment, he might have also been able to, have some of his memories, some of his painful memories at his side. So does that then mean that they are one and the same? Not the same person, obviously, but very similar in nature. The thing is, what's bothering me and what's actually quite intriguing is when you look at the Stalker and you look at Umbra, right? They both share the Excalibur body. Now, it can be multiple different things. It can be a situation where the technology to create Warframes wasn't as advanced as it was with a lot of the other ones, so they might have reused the same type of body, but can it also be that it's something else, maybe? I don't know. Let me know in the comment section down below what you guys think is the connection between them. And that actually brings me to one more thing. When they spoke, and I'm using quotation marks because they didn't actually even speak, how did they communicate? I mean, Umbra, for sure, knew what he was talking about, at least up to some extent, so that they speak telepathically, maybe? I don't know. Yet again, it's up for interpretation in the comment section down below. So, Excalibur Umbra and Stalker has a weird connection. Something like a shared bond, perhaps. Maybe. Only time will tell. Information has to be revealed at some point, and we might find out soon enough. Now, let's get into something even more pressing. The Indifference. So when it comes to the Indifference, it kind of changes a lot of the questline itself, because things start to kind of unravel, up to a point where I don't really like the direction where it's going, right? Let me explain to you. So, at the end of the questline, Hunhow made kind of a deal with the Indifference to create a safe space, a hub for Stalker and his children, or should I say child, technically, right? But that kind of brings me a lot of questions. And one of the questions are, is this the same type of place as Duviri? Because the Duviri was also created kind of in the void, technically, which I don't know if the hub is technically created in the void, since you can actually access it as far as I know. Let me know in the comment section down below if I'm right. I haven't really played further than the quest itself, so I'm not sure. Either way, let me get this straight. So, Hunhow made a deal with the Indifference. The place, or the safe space, the hub, was created either in the void or in the real world. It's going to be much scarier if it's just in the real world normally, right? Like out there. That means the Indifference has a lot more power than I gave him credit for. But then, if it's the same as Duviri, it brings up a lot of new questions, like, how was it then created? As far as I know, Duviri was created through conceptual embodiment, right? Like the emotions felt and the trauma felt by the Drifter kind of made Duviri. Yet again, I'm not exactly sure. That's as far as I know, and if you know any better, let me know in the comment section down below. But then if that's the case, and let's say the safe space or the hub is the same type of place as Duviri, who created it? Was it the Indifference? Was it Hunhow? Was it the Stalker? If it was the Indifference, then did the Indifference also technically then create Duviri? If it's not the Indifference, what is the powers that be? Why did Hunhow have to make this deal or sacrifice himself in order for this to happen? And the reason I think it's in the void in the first place is because Hunhow used one of the, I think it's the void shards, if I remember correctly, to power himself to be able to do this, and he definitely spoke to the Indifference. So I'm not exactly sure what's going on there. Yet again, it's so many more questions than I actually have answers for. In my personal opinion, it is a place created with the power of the Indifference in the real world, and the Indifference only did it because Hunhow sacrificed himself and made a deal with the Indifference to be able to grant that power to do that. Remember, it is Arcan architecture, so that just makes the most sense in my eyes, although it does make things a lot more complicated, I have to add. But even more complicated than that is going to be the next and final question. Who and what the hell is Sirius and Orion? And then when it comes to Sirius and Orion, they are something completely different. And I think that Sirius and Orion, both and equally only one, they change fundamentally the way that we can see Warframes. And there is a little bit of an explanation for that. So it is kind of hidden, right? So the thing is, a little bit of a backstory though. By the way, spoiler alert, once again, for the gajillionth time in this video, obviously. Right, Sirius and Orion, they are the children or child, thanks to the Eternalism model, of the Stalker and Jade, right? Now, they went back in time with the help of some people-ish to go back to their father, to kind of look for their father, right? And this, it works in some ways, you know, it doesn't work in other ways. They're kind of in a constant fight, things like that. That's fine. That seems relatively normal, but there's one thing that stands out to me. First of all, they are the first ever Warframes, if I'm not mistaken, to be born of two Warframes. Now, as far as I know, Jade was pregnant before she became a Warframe, but she did give birth while she was a Warframe, so that definitely changes at least some things. And then 2, there's a hidden thing that happens at the very end of that questline of Jade Shadows Constellations, and I feel like this is where things start to change quite a bit for us. Now, we know that the Stalker and Umbra, both of them can speak, they can think for themselves, they are almost like their own person still, and not just like an empty shell like most Warframes are, right? And I know that you can play Sirius and Orion as a Warframe in the game, which means that technically you can occupy that Warframe, but there's something that it keeps bothering me. It keeps coming back to me, right? And that is the fact that at the end of the questline, when you play as Stalker, right, you kind of cook for your children, or child, technically. I'm just going to say children for now on, for argument's sake, I don't know. And at the end, you say something as Stalker. Your mother's cooking was always better than mine, or something similar along that lines, and both Sirius and Orion, they laugh. That seems normal, right? Like, just it's a normal, heartwarming family moment, but therein lies a secret. See, the way they laughed kind of ticked me off. When you think of Stalker and you think of Umbra, when they speak, it kind of feels like they struggle to speak. They're like they force it out of their bodies and out of their mouth, right? Like you can hear the struggle within. But when it comes to Sirius and Orion, the way that they laughed, it felt normal. It felt like 2 random people just laughing and enjoying themselves. But that's not supposed to be happening. All the Warframes that we know that can speak, they barely speak. Now, this can mean a couple of different things. It can just be coincidence, something that the DE might have overlooked, which I don't think is the case. DE never overlooks anything. I think they have an amazing team working on the story and the lore. What I think is happening here is Sirius and Orion, both and equally the same, are an entirely different breed of Warframe. They are the first of their kind. Born from 2 Warframes, they are their own entity. Are they still Warframes even? You know, that's kind of the question you can ask yourselves. Is it the same situation like the Sentients that evolved to become, well, sentient? Where they are kind of the evolution of Warframes, kind of a new dawn, a new era of Warframes being born into this world. I think it might be the latter, to be honest. Now, will we see more Warframes like, well, they are in the future? Probably, yeah. Probably, yeah. And I think that a lot of secrets will be uncovered as we go into the next update, the next big thing, when we go back to Tau. Because I feel like a lot of secrets are being hidden there. And there's a reason that Albrecht and Trati wanted to go back there in the first place. But only time will tell. And only DE knows what's coming next. Now, if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, subscribe to the channel. I want to grow this channel to thousands of subscribers so that we can enjoy the lore of games like Warframe, like Crimson Desert, and others together. We can talk about the stories. We can talk about things that are yet to come. We can unravel secrets. And I can do that with you. So with that being said, if you enjoyed, you know what to do. And I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.